Hey everyone, Jenny here. We're going to be doing some mobility and more today. So what you're going to need a mat, you're going to need a foam roller, and then a band. And then we're going to be doing some exercises against a wall. So make sure you can find a space where you can do those exercises against the wall. So today's focus is going to be on the posterior chain. So essentially what that means is basically all the muscle groups focusing on the back side of your body. So calves, hamstrings, glutes, lats, anything with the back essentially. So that's going to be our focus today, again, just on that posterior chain. So everything's going to be working on those muscle groups. So let's go ahead, start in with our warm-up here. So remember with our warm-up, it's just getting all those joints ready to go. Right now we're trying to go through a good range of motion, but we're in that warm-up phase, so it may not be as full range of motion as it will be when we go through these mobility exercises. Alright, so we're just starting here with some arm circles, making our way through all of the joints, even though we're focusing on that posterior chain. Alright, go ahead and get some shoulder rolls. For these, as you go back in your shoulder rolls, think about pinching those shoulder blades together. Really, again, just working on all the joints. Go ahead, reverse those direction of the shoulder rolls. Nice. Again, just pinching those shoulder blades together as you go back for that shoulder roll. All right, going into our trunk twist here. So just rotating back and forth here, loosening up that back. During our warm-up, all exercises and movements should be pain-free. It should not be forced movements. They should be movements that are natural, free-flowing here. So loosening up that lower back with our trunk twist. All right. Transitioning into our hip rotations. So you're going to be hinging and bending over at the hips. So the only thing moving here really is your upper body. It's going over top of those hips. So again, just going down one joint at a time here in our dynamic warm-up before we get into just that posterior chain group for the actual mobility exercises. All right, go ahead and switch it to the opposite direction. So same thing here, just going over top and back behind on those hips, hinging and bending over at the hips. All right, go ahead and transition to our knee circles. So at this, you're just drawing those knees in a circle. You're not necessarily putting any pressure from your hands or your upper body. The hands are just here to guide. Go ahead and switch opposite direction. So we're just moving them, bending, kind of straightening once we get to the back side. Going through those circles. And we're going to do the same thing here now with our ankles, loosening those up. Just drawing a circle, switching it to the opposite direction here. All right. And on to the other leg. Just kind of drawing a circle like I mentioned here at the ankles, loosening them up. Going and drawing the other direction here. And we're going to transition into our first windmill here. So feet a little wider than shoulder width apart, arms out. You're going to touch opposite hand to foot, tap there, and stand all the way back upright, okay? And we're going to be doing this on both sides. So just tapping that foot and then making sure you stand all the way back upright in between each one here. Nice job. So again, we're dynamic here. We can kind of feel that stretch in our hamstrings and that posterior chain muscle, but we're not holding it. We want to be moving the entire time, and that is why it is dynamic. All right, so we're going to switch into our next windmill. So same thing, we're going to be going opposite hand to leg, but we're going to be staying down the whole time, loosening our upper back by rotating through, and then weight transitions from side to side, okay? So adding windmill with the upper body, loosening up that lower back, or back in general here. So just going at your own pace here, it doesn't have to be super quick. Alright. One more on each side. So we're going to focus on the last part of our warm-up, kind of on that posterior chain section. So what we're going to do first here is we're going to be doing what I call ice cream scoops. So still being dynamic in motion, but working more on that posterior chain going down all the way through our legs. So for ice cream scoops, you're going to have one leg out in front, heel on the ground. That standing leg is going to be bent, and you're going to go and scoop down. So as you go through this scoop down, you should be able to feel a stretch in that hamstring of the leg that is straight, okay? So go ahead and switch it now to the opposite leg. Couple of steps in between here. Just trying to feel that stretch and that leg with the heel on the ground, okay? So dynamic here because we are scooping and moving through this stretch. We're not sitting and touching our toes. All right, so always want to be dynamic during our warm-up. And we are focusing on that posterior chain. So again, like I said, you should feel this in that hamstring. You might also be able to feel a little bit in the glutes and then the lower back. Go ahead and head back here. Just take a couple of steps in between, making it more dynamic. Last one. All right, so changing it up just a little bit here. Still going to be able to feel this dynamic stretch in the posterior chain, hamstrings. We're going to be doing RDLs. So one leg is going to be stable on the ground, not moving stationary, reaching arms out, hinging over at the hips, stretching that back leg back, okay? So again, take a couple of steps in between, reach it all the way out, staying balanced, stand back up. So you should feel the stretch all the way down that leg that is stationary and on the ground, okay? So keep that back flat here as you go through. Woo, try to keep that balance, unlike me. And again, you're just stretching out those arms, stretching out that back leg. Alternating to both sides here. So you don't have to hold this position too long, just enough so that you're at that top range. I go a little bit slower to get there to maintain my balance. So just doing our RDLs here. Again, you're trying to go through a good range of motion with these. So as you can tell, it takes me a while to get all the way to that top position. So my top position, my leg is even here with the rest of my body. Trying to keep those hips squared off, trying to stay balanced. So just going through these RDLs. Going through one more time on the way back. Breathing through this stretch, this warm-up. Last one here. All right, so transitioning to the next part of our warm-up. You can either do these standing next to a wall or any surface or thing that you can hold on to. We're going to be doing our leg swings. So first thing we're going to do is our leg that is furthest away from whatever we're holding on to or the wall. And we're just going to swing forward and back. So again, this is going to be stretching those posterior muscles when we pull that leg up here. You should be able to feel that stretch through the hamstrings and the glutes. All right? Nice. And it doesn't need to be very fast or very quick. Just trying to go through a full range of motion here. All right, let's go ahead and switch it to the opposite leg. So same thing, just going forward and back here. You should feel that stretch in the hip flexors as you go back and in the hamstrings as you come up in front of you. And hopefully you'll be able to feel that joint loosen a little bit. That way it is ready to go for our mobility exercises. All right, next one we're going to do is we're going to go out to the side here. So it's kind of hard to see with this foam roller, but what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be taking one leg and putting it in front of my other leg and opening it up, okay? So again, in front of the other leg and opening it up. So again, you should feel this one through your glutes. As you come in through this side, you should be able to feel that in your glutes, okay? So again, just trying to go through a good range of motion here. Hopefully it gets a little bit further in that range of motion as we keep going through this exercise. All right, we're gonna switch it to the other leg. So again, you're always crossing it in front of you before you open, okay? So same exercise, just opposite leg. You can do this facing the wall. So if I was on the wall here, I'd have my hands against the wall going through and doing this stretch, okay? So don't feel like you have to hold on to the foam roller. You can hold on to the couch, a chair, whatever it may be, okay? All right, so last thing here for our warm-up, we're gonna be down on the ground. We're gonna be doing our eagles and scorpions. So to start out, we'll be on our backs, reaching opposite leg over to foot, trying to tap it, or opposite leg, or foot to opposite hand. That was tough. Okay, so just alternating here, going back and forth. Hopefully through this, you should be able to feel this stretch through the glutes to the hamstrings and loosening up that lower back. Important thing here, remember, is to keep those shoulder blades against the ground the entire time as you keep alternating. Again, the goal here is to touch hand to foot, but sometimes that's not possible and that's okay. Just going as far as you can to feel that stretch. And it doesn't have to be super quick, just going at your own pace here. Excuse me. All right. So, like I said, eagles and scorpions. So the other part of this is actually going to be laying on our stomachs. Excuse me. We're doing the same thing here. Arms are out to the side. You're reaching leg over top of your body and trying to touch hand to opposite foot. Again, still loosening up that back region here. Just doing your best, trying to get as close as you can opposite hand to foot. Going at your own pace and just going as far as you comfortably can. Hopefully through this you can get a little bit further. All right, and last one here. All right. Okay, so that's the end of our dynamic warm-up. We're going to kind of continue into that warm-up, slowly loosening up those posterior chain muscles, and we're going to be doing that with our foam roller, okay? So go ahead, grab your foam roller. We're going to start always from the ground up. So we're going to be starting with our calf muscles here. So first things first, one leg at a time to roll your calf muscle. You want to start just above that Achilles. So if you're wearing ankle socks, just right above that ankle sock area. And you're going to be rolling this all the way right below the bottom of your knee, okay? That's the entire region that we are rolling, the entire calf muscle. Now you can do this in one fluid motion, or you can switch it up and roll to the halfway point to start out. So starting above that sock region all the way to halfway up your calf. And then after a couple of rolls, usually between 10 to 30 seconds of rolling, then you will go from that midway point where you stopped all the way up to the bottom of your knee. All right, so those are two options that you have. By splitting it up into two regions or two areas, you kind of get a little bit of a deeper massage, a deeper roll. So that is one way or one reason why you could split it up. Otherwise, you can go ahead and roll that entire area. So like I mentioned, we roll for 10 to 30 seconds. If you're a beginner, 10 seconds is probably where you want to start. If you are a little more experienced, making your way up to that 30 seconds. All right, so we've done our rolling back and forth. One other thing we can do here is what is called spanning. So for this, you're moving your foot or leg from side to side as you move your leg against the foam roller. So essentially what you're doing is, the foam roller is here, you're moving back and forth like you were, but also moving your leg side to side. So it's two motions in one here, making sure you go all the way up through that muscle, and then you're just rotating that leg from side to side, going left to right here. All right, so again, 10 to 30 seconds, with our spanning. And then we're gonna do that same thing now starting on the opposite leg. So we wanna make sure we're always starting at the bottom, moving up, and doing both sides. All right, so again, starting with that calf muscle, just right above that sock region, all the way to back below that knee. So you're not actually rolling over that knee joint area, you're stopping right before it. And you are welcome to split this up into 2 sections. Again, stopping at that mid-calf range, and then starting at that, using that as your starting point for the second area. One way you can make this a little bit harder, if you need more of a deeper massage, if you're a little more advanced, is using a different type of foam roller, one that has textured or patterns on it. Another way that you can do this is overlapping that other foot. By doing that, you're adding more pressure. So those are some ways if you need to increase that intensity, you're not feeling it, but we're just trying to loosen out the posterior muscles here. All right, so we've done our normal rolling, so we're gonna go ahead and go into spanning. So remember with spanning, we're moving that leg side to side, and then we're still going up through that entire muscle. So those 2 movements are gonna be combined here. Trying to make sure we get through the entire muscle group. And foam rolling should never be painful. It might be a little uncomfortable at times, but it should never be sharp or painful. So keep that in mind. Always good to start with a smooth, softer foam roller as a beginner. All right, so we are done foam rolling our calves, so we're making our way up, going into our hamstrings. So for this, again, 1 leg at a time here. We're gonna start just right above that knee joint, underneath our leg here, doing our hamstring. And we're gonna roll all the way up until we kind of hit those glute muscles. So stopping right underneath those glutes. So here again, just going back and forth. You're rolling that leg over top of that foam roller. And again, you're stopping just right above that knee joint, or that's where your starting point is, and stopping right underneath those glutes, okay? So 10 to 30 seconds here. Just rolling back and forth. Once you've got that, you can always split this up into 2 groups or 2 sections as well. It is up to you. We're gonna add in a little bit of spanning, so this one's gonna be a little bit harder to do, but as you're rolling, just trying to move that leg from side to side to kind of hit some more areas within that hamstring group. So same thing here, just as you're rolling, you're rotating that leg, going side to side. So it may not be as easy or as defined as it was with your calf muscle, but you're still trying to just deepen that massage by doing the opposite direction here. All right, so going to our other leg here, starting again, just staying with that hamstring, doing our normal roll here, just right over top of that foam roller. Guess I could change directions for you. Starting right underneath or above that knee, and stopping right underneath those glutes. So again, we're doing this foam rolling just on the posterior chain muscles, which is essentially just the muscles on the back side of our body. And we're gonna start from the ground, which we did with the calves, and we're gonna make our way up all the way basically to our head. We're just gonna go through all those muscles. All right, so we're gonna add in that spanning. So again, you're still going the length of that muscle, but you're also trying to go side to side. So like I said, it may not be as defined here with the hamstring muscle as well as the calf, but still trying to work on that. 10 to 30 seconds of rolling. All right, so moving our way up, going to our glutes. So for this, we're gonna be sitting over top of that foam roller. Now, what you're going to be doing is rotating your body to one side here, so that way we're just doing one, like the left side or just the right side at a time. You're rolling those glutes over top of that foam roller, and you're just focusing on that one side. So one way you can deepen that stretch is to actually go into a figure 4 stretch here and foam roll at the same time. Now that is one way you can deepen that foam rolling session for your glutes. Otherwise, just trying to sit over top and foam roll those glutes 10 to 30 seconds. So like I said, all of your weight is to one side so that you can focus on one part at a time. And then we will switch it to the other side here, 10 to 30 seconds, just rolling over the left or the right side. Deepening that stretch if you want to by going into that figure 4 stretch. Otherwise, we're just going to roll here. All right. Now, as we make our way up, posterior chain here, we're going to be going into our back. It's important to remember that the lower back has an increased risk of being injured because of its low stability. So making sure that we never isolate our lower back on the foam roller and foam rolling that section is very crucial. So we're not going to be laying over top and foam rolling just our lower back because, like I said, low stability in the back could cause injury. So what we're going to do is actually kind of go up to basically the thoracic part, the chest part of your back. And you're going to start just right underneath your shoulder blades. And for people who have long hair, just make sure that it's tucked in front of you so you don't roll over it. And then grabbing onto your shoulders here to round that back. So like I said, starting at the bottom of your shoulder blades and rolling to the top of your shoulder blades here, okay? So we're really foam rolling now the chest part of our back, okay? Woo, this one really hurts. Okay, so keep that back rounded. You should feel this from, like I said, bottom of your shoulder blades and going all the way up, almost even into the shoulder region if you can, staying on that foam roller, keeping that back rounded. So breathing through this, like I said, it should not be painful. It might be a little uncomfortable. Right now it is a little uncomfortable for me. I'm really tight in my shoulder region. So really breathing through this, taking your time. If it's super uncomfortable, then foam rolling for 10 to 15 seconds is where you need to be. If it's not super uncomfortable, moving that time up to that 30-second range, okay? So moving on from here with that lower back, you're still, or with the back, not lower back, you're gonna be starting right where those shoulder blades are, having your hands behind your head, and then arching and opening that chest up, okay? So right here, just working on flexion and extension of the spine. So foam roller is over top around those shoulder blades, and you're leaning back. That foam roller will move a little bit here, but we're just working on that range of motion by extending and flexing our spine, okay? Again, should not be painful at all. And getting one more in. All right. So one other thing that we can do on our foam roller here is we're going to lay it lengthwise with our back. So just in the same direction as your spine. You're going to be laying over top of that foam roller. Again, watching for your hair if you have long hair, rounding that back, and I want you to go side to side here. So this is one way that we can include the lower back a little bit in our foam rolling without isolating it and causing it an injury. These are very small movements here, maybe like a centimeter or so to each side, going the length of those muscles, the length of the spine. Alright, go ahead, relax on your foam roller here, still on the length of your spine. The next thing that we're going to do is raise one arm up at a time, as in like drawing a snow angel in the snow. You should be able to feel that foam roller working against your shoulder blade here and those muscles. Should feel like a massage. And go ahead and switch it to the other arm. So again, focusing on those posterior chain muscles all the way up our back. We focused first on the lower body, now we're making our way to the lower body. Alright. against that foam roller, and we should be able to feel a slight massage as we go down with those muscles against our shoulder blade. Breathing through this one. One more. And the last thing here on the foam roller, we're going to be doing swimmers. So one arm is going to be going up next to our ear, our other arm is going to drop down next to our hip, and we're just going to rotate through this, still going through our range of motion at the shoulder joint, but as we do, we should feel those muscles rubbing up against that foam roller and hopefully kind of loosening them up and feeling like a massage as well. Alright, so movements do not need to be quick. Just going through this one. Making sure we alternate which arm goes up and which arm goes down. Last one here. Awesome. Alright, go ahead, sit up off of your foam roller. Next thing we're going to do here is we're going to grab that band and we are going to start back with our posterior muscles in our leg. So go ahead, wrap that band, see, put this down so you can see here. Go ahead and wrap that band over where your shoelaces are on one foot. Once you've got that, go ahead, raise that leg as far as you can. Now you're going to use these bands to assist with your stretch. You're going to go all the way down and all the way back up, okay? So as you go down, you should feel that band having more tension. As you come up, it should not be as tension filled, but as you keep going through this movement, you should be able to come with that leg a little bit further. So as you can see here, I'm almost at 90 degrees, whereas before when I started, I wasn't able to get there. So I'm loosening up that hamstring muscle, and I'm going through a greater range of motion, okay? So this is our first one, just going up and, or down and up. Now, our next one here, we're going to allow the leg to cross over our body. So we should be able, as this happens, we should feel that stretch going through our glutes, okay? So just lowering that leg, bringing it back up. So we're not really necessarily holding it. We're just going down as far as we can over top of our body, keeping that upper body flat, shoulders against the ground, and hopefully feeling the stretch in those hamstrings and the glutes, okay? So as you can see here, I'm getting a little bit lower each time, kind of going through a greater range of motion here. Going at your own pace. Alright, and rest. Go ahead, bring that leg down. Same thing now, opposite leg, wrapping that band around that shoelace area, make sure it's nice and secure. Other leg lays flat, starting with our up downs here. So going down, feeling that tension, bringing it up. Not as much tension in that band, but hopefully feeling that stretch in your hamstring, and going a little bit further into that range of motion as you bring it up is the goal of this stretch. So after this, we're going to be transitioning into a similar exercise. It will not be assisted with the band, so we want to make sure we are ready to go as we increase our intensity of exercises. Alright, we're going to go ahead and transition to that glute stretch. So again, this is going to fall over top of your body. You should be able to feel that stretch then in your glutes and in the hamstrings. So just pulling it over as far as you can go, stopping points, and then returning back to the start. So feeling that tension as your leg drops to the side and your band, and not as much when it comes back to the start. Again, keeping upper body completely flat, shoulders should be against the ground the entire time. Maybe one more here. Alright. Go ahead, take that band off. We are done with the band. Now we're going to transition into, like I said, an exercise very similar to what we just did, It's called nerve flossing. So we're gonna have one leg flat, the other leg that you're gonna be working on bent at 90 degrees here, and then you're just gonna hold underneath that knee joint, both hands. And we're gonna work on straightening out that leg as far as we can and bending. So important thing to remember here, keeping 90 degrees here, and then as you straighten that leg, your foot should be flexed, and you're just straightening it as far as you can. So I'm pretty tight right here, so I can't straighten it too much, but we're just gonna bend and straighten. So like I said, this is called nerve flossing. So essentially what we're doing here is just working on our range of motion, but we're isolating it through that nerve that goes through our bottom and through the back of our leg here. So hopefully as you go through this movement, you should be able to straighten out that leg a little bit more each time. As you can see, I'm getting closer to straightening out that leg just a little bit. So really holding that leg nice and tight, not letting it move. Only thing that's moving is the bottom half of your leg. Awesome job here. Slowly but surely, getting a little bit further each time. One last one. Awesome. All right, switching it to the other side here. Again, 90 degrees at the hip. Trying to keep that leg in line with your leg. Try not to have it bent over. Keep it nice and straight, upright. Again, foot is flexed, and you're trying to straighten that leg as far as you can. So at the start, it may not be able to go very straight, but hopefully as we keep going through this movement, you should be able to straighten out that leg just a little bit further, going through a greater range of motion. Nice and controlled with your movement, keeping that hip at 90 degrees, making sure that leg is perpendicular to the ground. There's no angles there. Again, straightening that leg should hopefully get a little bit easier as you go through this, getting a greater range of motion. Awesome. Breathing through this one. And go ahead and rest. We're going to go ahead and try to do that on the other leg again one more time through here. So 90 degrees at the hip, foot is flexed, straightening out that leg. So you can see here I've kept a good chunk of that range of motion. My starting point this time is a lot further than my starting point on that first round. I'm keeping my thigh perpendicular to the ground. My knee is straight up. There is no angle. Keeping my foot flexed. Nice and controlled here. Breathing through this movement. Still trying to go through a greater range of motion. Alright, rest on this leg. One more time here on our opposite leg. 90-degree angle at the hip. Thighs perpendicular. Foot is flexed, and you're going through and trying to straighten that leg. Nice and controlled movement. Again, I've kept some of that range of motion, still working on a little bit more here. Trying to straighten it as far as I can. Improving that range of motion each time. Last one. Alright. While we're down here on the ground, we're going to start with our spinal twist. So hands are going to go out to the side, bringing both legs up. Your starting point is right in front of you at neutral. Go ahead and slowly allow those legs to fall to one side. We should be able to feel this now in our lower back, working on that range of motion. Shoulder blades are flat against the ground here on both sides. Breathing through this stretch. Go ahead, bring those knees back through center, slowly lowering them down on the other side. Feeling this in that lower back region here. Go ahead, bring them back through center, dropping them back down to that first side, nice and slow. side. Excuse me. Again, stacking those legs here, laying down on that arm, palm is up, hand is stacked, and just opening up all the way. Holding it for a couple deep breaths, nice and relaxed. Closing it back up. And just going through this motion here. So again, we're working on the movement and mobility of that spine to open and close here. Working on more of a rotational mobility. And you're only going as far as you can. If you're not able to get the back of the hand to the ground, that's perfectly fine. Just trying to go to that end point and holding it there. And then hopefully each time you go through this movement, you're able to go just a little bit further. And this is our last one here. And closing it back up. All right, go ahead, slowly sit back up. So like I said, we just worked on that rotational aspect of mobility for our spine. So our spine can do a lot of different movements. We're also going to be working on flexing it and extending it. So to do that, we're going to do cat-cow. So we're going to exhale, going down. We are flexing and extending. And then we're going to inhale to round that back. And then exhaling back through. So again, we worked on rotation of the spine's mobility, and now we are working on that flexion and extension of the spine. So exhaling as you come down to arch your back, and then inhaling as you come up to round your back. Going at your own pace, moving through cat-cow here. Feeling this, even stretching all of those back posterior muscles when you round your back. One more here to finish it off. Alright guys, nice work. I'm going to pause this video. We're going to move over to the wall, so go ahead and find a space on the wall for yourself as well. Alright guys, so we're back here against the wall. First thing I want you to do is we're going to be kneeling here. Leg closest to the wall is going to be the one that is up in that kneel. You're going to start with those hands together like we did for our page openers, and we're going to open up, trying to open all the way to the back hand against the other wall. So this is another variation of those page openers we did on the ground. This just adds a little bit more intensity to it because you have that wall that you're working against, okay? So we're just opening it up here each and every time. Still working on that rotational aspect. One more here. All right, now this time we're gonna put this leg down. Other leg is gonna be up. Same motion. So it's going to make it a little bit more difficult here because you have to rotate through the other leg. So you may not be able to go as far this time around. I'm not able to get my hand all the way to the wall, but that's okay. I'm just still trying to open up as far as I can each and every time. Nice and controlled, breathing through your movement. All right, we're gonna switch it up. We're gonna do the opposite direction. So again, remember we're starting with that leg up closest to the wall. Hands start together. Opening it up here. Still going through that page opener. It should be a little bit easier with the leg closest to the wall against the wall. Just opening it up, nice and controlled. Nothing too strenuous here. Getting one more. And we're going to switch which leg we have up. So leg furthest away from the wall is now going to be the one up. Hands start together again. This one will be a little bit harder. You may not be able to go as far, but we're still doing that page opening movement and motion here. Nice and controlled, breathing through this. Hopefully as you go through here, you're able to open up just a little bit further each time. One last one here. All right, and our last one here, we're gonna move our mat so that we are going the opposite direction here. And we're gonna be working on those hamstrings and glutes one last time here. So we're gonna be up against the wall, doing a figure 4 stretch. So opposite ankle is at the knee. And then you're putting that foot up against the wall, 90 degrees. And you're holding this stretch, okay? So you should be able to feel this in your glutes of this stretch right here. You're pressed up against this wall, trying to press this knee towards the wall, okay? So you should be able to feel this stretch in those glutes and a little bit in the hamstring here. Go ahead and relax. Switch it to the other side. So like I said, foot is against the wall, trying to keep 90 degrees at ankle, knee, and hip. Crossing the other one over. And then once you're in that position, you're thinking about pressing this knee all the way towards the wall. All right, you're doing this through muscle contraction. You're not pressing with your hand. It is all muscle contraction here. Feeling this in your glutes and all the way into your hamstrings, okay? We're gonna go through this 2 times on each leg. Breathing through it here. Go ahead and relax. Going back to that first leg, 90 degrees at hip, knee, and ankle, crossing over right above the knee at your ankle, pressing this knee towards the wall the entire time. Again, doing this through all muscle contraction. Taking deep breaths here, trying to push that leg, that knee a little bit further each time, deepening that stretch, feeling it in the glutes here and into the hamstring. All right, go ahead and release. And one last time here on this leg, trying to push that leg a little bit further. Hopefully you're able to go deeper into this stretch. Go ahead and release. All right, guys, thanks for joining me for Mobility and More this week. We focused on that posterior chain, and I hope to see you again next time. And don't forget, everyone's journey is different, so own yours.